Since they get more. She, they got a quorum, right?
It's not one,
So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Lastly, if you'll take the roll.
Ashley and Gillespie. Here. I'm here, Brian Wedding,
Here.
Jeremy Haley,
Here.
Josh Tressler,
Here.
Josh Marsh,
Here.
and Mitchell was absent. Matt Myers is absent. Mike McNeely.
Here. Here.
Nick Stormer.
Here.
Dr. King,
Here.
Bill Myros,
Here.
and then we have 3 guests and proxies, President Carla McCullough. Here. Mike Gasper,
Here.
Derek Posnott.
Here.
All right, with that, having a quorum, everyone should have received a copy of the agenda. If there are no additions or corrections to that or subtractions, I'll take a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
McNeely. All right, you also should have received a copy of the minutes. You should have the special meeting minutes as well as the executive board minutes. Any additions, corrections or subtractions from that?
Correction, the special meeting as January 8th, 2025 was the top instead of 26.
Any other additions or corrections or subtractions? If not, I'll entertain a motion with the correction of the correct year of 2026 instead of 2025. Here, there's a motion to approve. For a second.
Second.
Director's report, Carla, are you giving that?
Yeah, I've got a few things.
Okay.
So as far as dispatch, we have 2 dispatchers that are going to a CTO class here, March 10th through the 12th. It's going to be a supervisor and a shift lead of ours. And then currently we are fully staffed, so we have 17 dispatchers, which 3 of those are in training. So we anticipate beginning another hiring process in about a month or 2. Kind of wanting to give our trainers a little bit of a break, but I think they'll get that during the application process a little bit. And then Charlie is projected to, which the county has approved our center to get painted and have new flooring installed. So Charlie's going to do that in the next week or 2. And then Levinstein's is due to put flooring in May. And then I think it was last week, Josh and I and Leanne had a Teams meeting with Digital just talking about Vesta, introducing their new project manager. And so we kind of went over Vesta, talked about the Mevo phones. We're getting 4. We're getting the 2 replaced. We only have 2 right now. So we're getting 2 replaced and then 2 additional, which is our 911 backup phones. And the last thing is StatFlight, the one call system that we just had installed on all our desktops and dispatch. Basically, instead of picking up the phone, calling StatFlight, we can actually launch them from that app. So once we do that, then we just type in the information that they need. The location, what it is, patient information. So we could do that through the app. And also we received from them a little push to talk clip that we can clip on our shirts. And all we have to do is hit the button and it just kind of opens up like if you had your phone on speakerphone. So we could talk through that little clip and do the same thing. And which is good for hands-free. And we also can see where the helicopters are. So, and we get ETAs for liftoff, ETAs for the landing zones. And another good thing about that app is it has determined landing zones already in there for the cabin, so, which is nice. That's about it.
Thank you. Old business, the interlocal agreement. All right, so, the interlocal agreements were attached with, the changes that were discussed at the last meeting, with a split table basically laid out, as was, suggested and or, requested. And we left it as, there was going to potentially be some lit restructuring, through the General Assembly. And we were waiting for that to end. The General Assembly has, ended. And currently, the, lit restructuring has been pushed back a year, from a 2028 implementation to a 2029 implementation. With that implementation, the state legislature is requiring a multi-jurisdictional collaboration team to discuss the, where lit is going, basically. So that would be individuals that are, and the county council is ultimately responsible for setting the rates and where that lit money is going in a very short, kind of concise window of synopsis there. Why I mention that is because the interlocal agreement is basically hung up on that before we can say the county commissioners and the city council look at that and say, okay, we approve and we sign it, and now the interlocal agreement is in place. So we have two options. We can potentially move forward with a year, 6 months, probably a year interlocal agreement for 1 year with the sunset of a pre-established lit rate as it is now. Or we continue to stay our current, which if we do that, then would separate the boards out to the executive board and the advisory board and disband this board. Or we just stay the current course until an undetermined, I guess, amount of time that we figure this out, or state legislature figures it out and it kind of trickles down to us, and all continue to meet together as one executive board.
I think doing a year agreement, and then that splits the boards up. Cause that's, I think that's a priority here that we're looking at, is to get an executive board and the advisory board. So, I think that makes sense. A 1 year agreement and then revisit it in a year. On that 16H, reading through here, that was the one of them we're hung up on. During the term of this agreement, the county adopts a lit and the revenue is used to financially support the PSAP, the county shall apply that revenue credit divided equally, 50% going to the county, 50% going to the city, toward the total amount owed by the parties outlined in section 16. We can remove that and then amend it in a year and see where we're at with the state and the local income tax.
Right.
I mean, that's an option.
It is, because of this multi-jurisdictional collaboration group committee is going to take a while to come up with something where I doubt there's one meeting it's everybody agrees at the first time. And in a year, we might not be to that point yet,
Right.
But maybe we've started. If anything, we keep that same agreement that we have, we do it another year.
Right.
And then eventually we'll be able to do it, but we can't, part of it, I think we either have to stay the course and just stay like we are and move forward, or change it and move forward, because if not, we're going to be in this limbo for potentially 2.5, potentially 3 years. Other thoughts?
I think the year renewal will probably suffice. I think the responsibility of this board is to just recommend out that we're okay with the restructure, and then the city council and the county council and the commissioners would agree to the document.
Right.
So I think if we're good with moving it out of here, we can tweak the language. We'll get the actual language that the councils vote on.
Next month, we could just present,
I think
present next month to both
yeah.
council and city council and county commissioners to approve this, and then next month just get it done. And then our May meeting then would be
Split,
the split.
right.
Do you want Ashley to take out that language? Do you guys want to take out the language and send it back to her? We're going to officially sign.
I think just if you'll just send us the Word doc, we'll figure out what the final version looks like.
So I believe the motion as stands is to continue to move forward with a positive recommendation to the city council and the county commission of a interlocal agreement for dispatch services with the removal temporarily of a 50 split until deemed, until discussed by the new founded executive board. Does that sound right to everybody?
I think, let's say that motion, let's make that motion to delete 16H out of the contract.
So the motion would be to recommend the interlocal agreement with the removal of 16H.
Yes. I'll make that motion.
There's a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's gonna die. New business. We have St. Paul Mutual Aid response. And then I was contacted via phone about an issue Matt Morrow arose with county fire. Yes, county fire, do you know what the St. Paul Mutual Aid response is?
St. Paul and Adam, St. Paul's not making majority of their calls. And it was discussed because their mutual aid is Waldron. Waldron's not coming in Decatur County responding to the St. Paul calls. So it was brought up that Adams is willing to take on that role as mutual aid. But St. Paul has some issues that they want to still work out, so they want to table it till the next meeting. So they have some more time to work with Adams.
So there's no action here at dispatch.
Nothing yet, no.
You want to speak to the Matt Morrow issue?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. So apparently at the last county fire chiefs meeting, it was brought up that volunteer fire wants to be called instead of county highway for all trees down. Apparently it was agreed upon by all present departments with the exception of St. Paul. I received a call from Matt Morrow, asking for more information about this and to basically say that he doesn't think, wants the dispatch board to be aware because he doesn't think that could be done. Looking into it and talking to some people that were at the meeting, one says that no, that it was literally just a tree down over the road if public safety is at risk. So if public safety is to be deemed at risk, there's a wire, then fire should be called and there should be an immediate response. I talked to Tim Orman. He says that county highway wants to be called on those calls, that this did not come from him. I stated that, currently it's really kind of like sheriff's department request county fire for a tree down. If county highway can't get out there soon enough, that I really don't see where this is a truly like a dispatch issue or a policy issue. Unless there's gonna be a policy written that says trees down, get county fire. County fire is having a chiefs meeting, not an association meeting, but a chiefs meeting on May 10th at 18:30. I'm hosting here to discuss some of this stuff, probably the St. Paul issue as well as that. There's several issues that Matt Stone and Matt Maher want to discuss. Just making you all aware of that. Currently, there's really no action. I can say as the fire chief role, we don't want to go out on every tree down, especially if there's no public safety thing. I get that if it's in the county, if it's dark and there's a tree and a car can crash into it, but we're getting into the minutia of that. So, I know that sometimes county highway has a delayed response time, but sometimes so does volunteer fire, depending on the agency, what's going on. During storm responses, sometimes we might not be available to go to all tree down calls. So we are having that meeting, and we will see what comes that. If you, Matt, you really think, I just felt after talking to him. So
what was said and voted on at the association meeting was if the tree is in the roadway, we would go and clean up the roadway. Get it out of the roadway. That way the roadway is opened up for public safety. We wasn't going out for trees down in people's yards, in their house. If there's a tree into their house, then we would go because there's damage to the house. At that point in time, we need to notify EMA of storm damage from that.
well, yeah, it's potential collapse risk. Carly, do you know what the policy?
We just call county highway. I mean, if a deputy gets there and asks for
Right.
county fire to be dispatched, then we'll do it. But, as far as, the county fire department being dispatched, is if it's in the lines, we've got sparks, we've got potential fire, whatever, then we dispatch them. But
So you guys are asking for a policy change there. Is that what I'm
Because
understanding?
previously, we've always got called out to every tree down with the previous administration. Now that dispatches, correct me if I'm wrong, Carla, talking with Leanne, that where you're dispatching off of policies, not off the way it used to be. So that policy's never been changed. But nobody knew that because of how they were dispatching previously. They were just sending out the fire department on all trees down. There was an issue that arose about a month and a half ago. And that's why we started looking into it. And that's what Arlene told me. So that's why we brought it up at the meeting, talked about it. And everybody voted yes. There was no no's. There was a unanimous vote at the County Fire Association meeting.
So then you need to work with Leanne to create a policy. And then that policy can be heard next meeting at the. I appreciate the other information. And again, there's that other meeting. So, but yeah, if you want to do that policy, the advisory board will take, obviously take that policy and then we should discuss it. Vote on it, do whatever we need to next meeting, but we'll need to see.
Yeah, because I told Leanne we were going, in the meeting, we told her, said she wasn't going to be here, that it was going to be tabled till the May meeting. And that gives us time to work with her.
Yeah.
When she's back off of vacation, with an effective date of potentially getting that pushed into policy in place by June 1st.
Yeah, that besides the training aspect of it and having it written, if we hear it and approve it on May 7th, literally May 8th. But yeah, if you'll have the policy product for us to review, that would be what we need. Base plan?
Yes. So I was, had a meeting with IPSC, with the state, and in one of our discussions for that was looking at the formulation of a formalized PACE plan. And so the way our stuff is set up, it looks like,
You might want to tell people.
you're right. A PACE plan is a type of communications plan that sets up what are your procedures under a primary, normal daily operations communication status. So it's basically like, what are your redundancies? What's your primary, your alternate, your contingency, and your emergency for those types of scenarios. Ours is not really a one size fits all. There's a lot of moving parts depending what's affected and what the circumstances are around it. And in some cases, there are no redundancies available, and that's beyond our control because that's how some of the different facets are put together. But the reason for putting one into place, and the people I've talked to about it, which mainly was Leanne and Josh Tressler, was looking at saying the reason IPSC really wanted to see one was, one, just to have it, and two, when we go to apply for grants in the future, if the grant is something to do with anything in our communication scope, we could use this plan to actually have a document to show where our weaknesses are or vulnerabilities are, and how that we would be using that grant to possibly close those gaps in redundancy. And it would actually improve our chances at receiving those grants in the future. So that was the main reason for it. And we did work with Josh. I completed the notification part. He completed a lot of the dispatch and 911 related portions of that. It's something we've got on file, and then some I intend to use here as we move forward into future grant endeavors, knowing that there's going to be a need to expand some of that stuff in the future.
So you do have a PACE plan in place now.
Yes. Now, I will say too, that for most of you who would take this and look at it, this is more of what I would call an administrative level PACE plan. It's not, if someone from an operations side looked at the plan, they'd be like, this doesn't make sense, or why do we do this or that? It's not like an ICS 205 form. It's more of the administrative level documentation of what that is, which in the grant side of things, that would be more beneficial to what we're looking at there. So we did formulate that, work with them to get that done, turn that over. We have that on file, and it is on file also with IPSC, and then we can use that here in the future for grant opportunities to assist us.
Good. Thank you. Board elections? You're at their secretary. Well, we're gonna table board elections. Even better. Any other announcements?
Couple meetings ago, we found out that the town of Westport was going to refurbish the water tower, and the radio and antennas that we receive our dispatch from was going to need to be removed from the water tower. They get their grant, so they are proceeding with that. So at some point, the antennas and the wiring and everything would have to be removed from the tower. And Westport was wondering what we needed to do for that part of it. Because that was put in back when the different towers were available around the county.
So the precedent is really nothing. When St. Paul had the same issue, it was on them to basically relocate if they wanted to, or test the system and see if they even needed it. Josh, I'm not sure if either of those things have been done, Mike, or if we want to do testing, we can probably work with obviously with Westport Fire and Dispatch, and, if it's turned off or once it's disconnected, prior to an emergency, what does that look like? Is it necessary? I know for St. Paul, I know Brad / EMA did try to help in the finding a place to relocate, not really brokering a deal, but any other high spots like that, if that is necessary to remain in service. So obviously, I mean, I think at any point we can start the testing of that, you know,
If we could, that way we'll know what we need to do.
right, to see what that looks like, because I don't, you know, just off the top of my head, I wouldn't know what's gonna work and what's not.
I know a lot of the reasons, and I can't speak to every, individual placement, just historically in other counties that done this with Ripley County specifically. It was more of an issue of the audio being of a quality signal to activate the pager. Typically, the pagers and the radios can hear the radio signal, maybe static. I mean, you guys all heard radios. The towers, that'll really the big point. The reason was to keep it quality enough to still activate the pagers. So that may be the issue of it not being strong enough to activate the pagers. Now, handheld rate, like I don't know that it'll necessarily be a huge coverage issue as far as normal communication, especially since it's pretty much on 800, but activating the pagers. I know when we talked to St. Paul, when this all happened before, there was way less concern about it because everybody says, well, I mean, we all have e-dispatch and we all have cell phones and we all have, and again, I'm not going to be the first person to say, hey, that should be the primary thing by any means, but it's less of a concern if we have alternate methods. But we can do testing. We can basically disable that remote link that keys that tower up and then have dispatch do some toning. Have you guys, key areas or places you think it may be an issue, or we can definitely help with that information, honestly. We'll let everybody else know too, so because everybody's gonna hear the towers.
Right. Do you guys have an alternative site to move stuff to, Mike, if necessary?
We have a tower at the station. It's not going to be as high as the current one. We could put it there if that was there. We really have gone looking because that was dependent upon whether the town got the grant or was even going to have to do anything at that point. Which they did get it, and now it's going to be the issue.
It's temporary, right? Once it's painted, it'll go back on?
No. Oh, that's what we've been told.
Wow.
Gotcha. That changed.
Yeah,
I thought we were
I
just
thought
talking
it was
about
temporary.
yeah,
2 months.
yeah, I thought it.
They change in regulation said that they can't put it back on the water tower, is what we've told. Oh,
Okay.
We were gonna turn on.
I was saying, maybe we, look at that.
I do know, I feel like I always jump hats here. When I worked at ETC, we co-located space on that tower as well for a short time. And there were some issues then when we were attempting to do that. They hadn't changed any of the regulations. We ended up going on like 6 water tanks, but they were extremely particular about like where the cables ran up and how the grounding was done with that type of structure. It was I said, it's not anything any different than you would probably be safety conscious of for a radio transmitter anyway, but also down there, the only other options we had at the time to get the height and things we need were the commercial sites. And I mean, that's 5 years ago, we were between $1,000 and $1,400 a month to be on one of those.
Yeah.
So I don't know even if there's any kind of a government relations thing anymore, but just tell you that's there wasn't anything else.
So
That's why I was such
they
a
were
great
very
agreement.
upset about how the antenna wires was attached to the ladder
Yep.
going up the tower.
Yeah, that's why when we did we had a very specific, and this was 2013, 2014, so I'm sure it's changed. People are more shredded now. If allowed at all.
So again, I'm sorry.
What's the height of the Westport Tower that you have there currently that you want to potentially move it to?
40 or 60 feet. That's one our station. Yeah, ours is 60 feet. The water tower is 200 and something like that.
Okay.
So the other thing we could do, I mean, if we do some testing and determine that, hey, it's not working here with the pagers, obviously there's multiple scenarios there. Looking at other options with other paging things or relocating the tower. If everything else is switching to 800 and you're using 800 for most of your communication, not saying I want to pitch the VHF and track your pagers and go to a different paging system, but something to look at. Also sourcing another tower site, and I don't know the difference. When we just did the work on the tower here, the tower height with the elevation difference, I don't have that expertise. I don't know if either of our GIS internal people at city or county have that to be able to do that without contacting another company to do like onboard maps.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
How high, where do we need to be at what height? Because 200 feet on a tower that's already 200 feet lower than us.
right. So we'll do what we can, obviously, to help and try to coordinate through that, but, I think we've got to start now in the planning and the preparation, because do they have a date of when they're starting? Yeah, so I mean, it could be, that's the bad thing. So yeah, whatever, working with Josh and Mike, if you'll help try to figure that out. We'll try to, because I know you guys, rely on your pagers. And if that's gonna have to change, then that's gonna be something you're gonna have to, that'll be a hard nut to crack too.
County meeting the other day, St. Paul was complaining about being toned out the second time because they were relying on their phones and it wasn't coming through before
They're getting the second time before it's coming through.
they're on the sign.
Is what they're saying.
That's, I mean, sorry about you. I mean, that's just the way the phone system.
That's what we told her, and we told them to change a couple of settings on there so that they get the pre-alert. At least they know it's coming, so.
I wondered if it was the settings issue. It's causing their complication there.
Appreciate that. Mike, any other announcements?
I just have one quick update. Still fighting with, shouldn't say fighting with, still internally escalating with ERS and Motorola on our 800 700 repeater here in town. That's I know your thoughts on me. I wanted to.
I'm trying to run everybody and get a damn thing and bring it over.
Yeah.
And I'll pay someone, when you pay somebody else to put it up.
Yeah. The problem,
I'll climb it now. I mean,
It's getting ridiculous that it's been sitting on their floor for how long?
the problem is everything is here except for the one piece they couldn't order until we knew the frequency. And Motorola is not giving them a ship date. So they are trying to escalate. I had a call yesterday with Travis and then he responded at like 6 o'clock last night because he promised me an update and said, well, my update is that I don't have an update, but I've tracked down the appropriate contacts, put them on an email and said I will talk to them in the morning and we will give you what we can tomorrow. So I emailed him at 10 o'clock right after we sat down and said, hey, I'm in the meeting now. Do you have an update? I haven't heard anything. That's because I said, can we at least go ahead and bring it over and do some of the site work? I know they probably don't want to do 2 trips, but at this point, like, realistically, that last piece, they'll put it in and they'll attach the antenna wires to. Now they'll have to do some testing.
depending on where it's shipping from, we could have like picked it up ourselves and been back by now.
And I will just say, it does appear right now that this is a common thing in Motorola, which I know Motorola is big, whatever, but like, they still haven't provided anything. We had a call about Vesta. We're hoping end of April, based on things shipping when the county signed the contract and everything, and they don't have any info. So they're telling us now, probably the end of May. That's still not a ship date though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just
Definitely postpone.
wanted to let everybody know that as Mike mentioned, because I jokingly was like, we'll just drive over and get it. And it's not that they haven't scheduled it, it's they're just not scheduled until they have that part. So he is escalating it within Motorola. And hopefully we'll something today. The date today could be June.
Right.
I mean, that's not great. At that point, I'd probably say cancel it, see if we can order one from source through another vendor.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
If we wanted to, in the last meeting, I know that I had discussed or brought up looking at moving to a new mass notification system. Well, that's been a complicated process to say the least. We had all agreed that we were going to move ahead with Motorola Rave. We presented that contract to the commissioners. They had signed it with the condition that if we could get out of our contract with Code Red. After I, discussed with other counties that had got out of their Code Red contract, they evidently fell into the perfect timing of everything, which we were not fortunate enough to fall into that right timing. So after having the county attorney review the documents and what we could find in the contract from previous administrations, that we weren't going to be able to get out. So we are stuck with Code Red for at least another year. And at the end of that, as we approach the end of that contract time, right now, unless something changes along the way, we'll probably go ahead and still want to move ahead with Motorola Rave when we get to that point. However, this time, and we found additional complications in our last almost tornado event, kind of sort of tornado event. We had a lot of people notifying me that they were not getting the severe weather alerts, like for the tornado warning that did drop for this area. Looked into that and found out that in the carryover, when they went from OnSol to Crisis 24 that bought out Code Red, they didn't carry that over for us. So put in a ticket for that. They told me how to go in and turn that on. Went in and have turned that on. I've also had Josh look at that as well, and we're like, I think it should work. According to them, it should work, but I don't know. So unfortunately, we will not know if those are working the way they're supposed to, probably until the next weather. But they are, from what Crisis 24 is, they should be functioning. So hopefully we've got that issue rectified. Definitely looking forward to getting away from that company next year.
Yeah, for sure. There was, like I said, just so everybody, there was some concern. I heard about it from several people, Honda inquired as well. Some got the iPause tornado warning, but did not receive the Code Red tornado warning. I was one of those individuals, and I could have went outside and went into the field and touched the potential unknown tornado. I was that close and did not receive, because I was signed up for it because of the carryover and the data breach, did not receive that. So there were some people that were upset about that. We did not know. I mean, it literally is on the system itself. We did not realize that, how could we? And so, dispatch put it out, their weather warning. It went out, it was on most everybody's phones or weather apps. So notification was made, but maybe not, they were upset that it wasn't made the way they thought it should be. So if you do hear or have heard about that, it was a system failure that we were not even aware that happened. And so just again, to Mike's point, more reason to hopefully get a more stable platform.
Mike, how much time will be down without iPads?
6 months.
I don't think it was. Well, that's probably accurate, because again, we didn't know for a long period of time that it was not functioning.
I think there's a real good argument there to get out of contract that many months early.
I agree, but I don't think they.
Yeah. So
I guess we didn't report at the time.
So one of the things I was going to ask today, just for clarification, then it'd be a follow-up conversation with commissioners. I believe this board approved and decided that we would be willing to spend the money to have an overlapping contract. It was not presented to the commissioners and the attorney that way for their vote. But is it still the case, I believe that was in the motion, that we would be willing to spend both 1 year to get past this? Not asking for a vote, I can't, but just clarifying and making sure, because I would like to have that conversation with the commissioners and the.
That was a side conversation that I had with, beginning and I, had thought that might be okay, but that was never presented to us.
Right, and that's why I wanted to clarify that before, kind of, I talked to Leanne, of course, she went on vacation, because I said, several years on the email, I said, the cost in dollars versus the cost in man hours, frustration, public expectation, and everything, because realistically, as Mike mentioned, they've turned back on the automatic alerting, but we can't even realistically tell you. Yeah. Who is in the system, who's getting what alerts, our ability to target alerts and the other things that we could use before. That Mike's mentioned on the timing of the getting out of the contract, their response was, well, we gave you a product back on Friday before we requested it. However, we truly don't have that product back because the previous EMA director was the only IPALS certified person. Mike's was not in the system. I looked that day because they don't know about him, because this is restored data from March of 25.
Right.
So before Mike even existed. So unless you change anything this week, we still actually don't have the ability to use that feature because we don't have a person to do that. So my argument is, if, and again, I truly am not trying to be flippant with county funds and just spend an extra $4,186, but the cost to continue functioning with what we have, addressing the issue with the public, getting people to sign back up on this new system, market it, advertise it, try to get it working, and then in January say, okay, we're doing this again, and it's completely different, and let's start over and do this. It's not worth $4,186. Now, not my money, not trying to throw that out there, but
I told Leanne the same thing.
Yeah.
I felt like it was worth spending that $4,100 to not have to go through that hanging in the rear.
so
What was Motorola's response? When you were asking the whole contract,
Well, they were okay with it.
yeah, they
they could hold it.
Yeah.
so that was kind of my intent to ask kind of the gut feeling, or we actually said it in the meeting, but I don't know that we did on that. So that's, I know we had the side conversation with
Yes.
Leanne, but I didn't know if it was actually voted on in the meeting with that verbiage. But the intent was to then go back to the commissioners and ask. It was signed in the meeting with that condition, if they're willing to waive that condition or basically approve it again in the next meeting. So Mike has done what he can to basically, hopefully the system will operate the way it's supposed to in the next. I almost wanted to go and try to find a way to turn on flood warnings right now, not for everybody, but for us to see if we can get them. I mean, my Alexa and my weather service alerts could be fully informed. But just as kind of a test. And again, this all happened last night, temporary, so that's why I haven't like about this yet.
So the flood warnings have to be turned on through that?
So one of the things that we, as we were perusing this new system, there are, Mike, what would you say, 60 different types of alerts?
Don't think it was that many. There's probably at least a dozen. that-
Tornado, wind, rain, flood, watch, warning, advisories. I forget all the water ones.
Yeah, you can pick and
Water,
choose.
there's
Maritime.
this matrix.
I was turned on for everything but tsunami, and I haven't got any.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
getting now, that I'm not getting anything from them at all.
and part of my, and I'll get the last piece, and I promise I'll stop talking about kind of the public cost of this. Or our cost to assisting the public is Mike and I did a test and I said, okay, I'm a new citizen, let's sign up. I went to the link provided, put in my email address, my phone number, my address, hit save, and it said, cool, here you go. So that just shows up as a new person in the system. How do, they're in a community group. If we want to have the ability for people to say, I want weather alerts, or I want this, there's an app and there's some things to do, but there's no way for us to see unless we manually go in and put people into those groups. So there's that. I feel like we fundamentally have to be missing something that already, even me as somebody who understands how the system works, so I'm different, can't just sign up and pick what alerts I want to be in. I don't want to put the public through that and then do it again in a year. So that was going to be my discussion to get on the commissioner's agenda for the next meeting, but wanted to make sure the feeling was the same from this board.
Where do those
Because
funds come from this board or from?
I can't remember if it was out of the statewide budget or out of the county budget, but it's dispatch funding. So that's why Leanne
Dispatch
brought it to you. It's EMA manages the app, but it's dispatch funding. I just can't remember if it was statewide funds or not. Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought it was maybe that city county extra, whatever, not extra, but like the saving, that's city county savings account, yeah. We did not vote on it.
That's great.
Yeah,
So things I need to buy.
we didn't, we did not,
Only if you invest. Yeah.
we did not vote on this. Obviously, I agree with everything that's being said. I would add also that we do now have a known failure of a tornado warning, which is our highest, our fire, which weather is our, and tornadoes are our highest, like, no possible thing. Wow. I think it makes that argument a little better. I think a true argument, we could probably, but I think having that backup, like, hey, we chose not to do this, we're gonna try again. The full explaining of, okay, and maybe that was all right until the point of, well, now we've had a tornado warning notification failure. We have to do something. Because ultimately, good, bad, and different, if something bad would have occurred from that, it's coming back to us. So,
I'd say Josh presented at the commissioners meeting, and it clearly makes sense to me. I would spend that money to not have to go through that pain of in 1 year recycling this again.
and surely those, also hearing a failure are gonna be like, hey, wait a minute, that kind of elevates
It should.
the issue of, oh, because it could have been anywhere in the county. And if it was their constituents, that might push a little more. And it's $4,100. It's money, but we deal with a lot more zeros than that. Like, this is a small drop in the bucket for a lot of convenience and ease and information than is not. So, all right, well, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
The only one that didn't have any problem.